Welcome to the Sabrprints2A Show. Hey guys, hopefully you guys are doing good. Today we have a special guest. We have ComeOutAndPla. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on the show, and I'm glad to be the third guest on your premiere season. That's a big deal. I'm very happy to be here.
Nah, man, thank you. Thank you for being part of this. Yes, you're the third guest. I'm actually cutting it down to seven episodes, and then after that, I'll figure out what's going on. Then today, no, when was it? Yeah, yesterday, I got informed that JSD Supply is actually sponsoring the show, and they gave me the affiliate link. So shout out to JSD Supply for all your 2A 3D printing needs. Hit the link in the bio.
No, for sure. Jordan JSD, they're it's a great company. It's where I get a lot of stuff from because he's doing awesome work and great deals. Just out of from a sales point, he gets great deals. But for what he's doing and the exposure he's putting out there, he's a good dude, and I like supporting him.
Yeah, man, he's doing a lot of stuff. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in this field because he's the one that started with the 3D printing. And then I got into the P80s. And then from there, I saw him start to post stuff about 3D printing. And that's how I got into it because of him. So shout out to JSD Supply once again. Let's start this podcast off by you introducing yourself to the people that don't know about you. I'm pretty sure a lot of people know who you are. But for the few that don't, that are living under a rock, go ahead, man.
ComeOutAndPla on Instagram. That's pretty much the only place I'm at because Twitter is a soul-sucking black hole of just hate for the most part. But a lot of stuff on Instagram. It's absolute train wreck. So I just my goal with what I did with my, I guess, username or channel or whatever is just advocacy for the hobby, for the 2A part of it, for the art part of it. There's just so many talented people out there making really cool stuff in the gun space that for me, it's just, I love putting the information out there. And if I scoop up followers and attention along the way, even better, because then it just spreads even further. It's the past 2 years specifically, I think, have been one of the cooler times to be involved with guns, period. Because before then, every gun for the past, 20 years has been some form or another of a Glock with a few modifications. And we have that too now, of course, but at least they're cool looking. But that's my main purpose with posting and everything, is just trying to get the word out to as many people as possible, trying to bring people in that maybe weren't into guns or didn't know about what we're doing, and kind of bringing them in and showing them, what's going on and what we're capable of, and what's even in the future for what we're doing, because there's a lot of cool stuff down the pike.
Thank you, man. I actually appreciate your stuff. You are one of the original ones that I was following when I started. So it was you, Guns from the Grave, and a couple of others that I actually followed and actually interacted with. So I appreciate that, man. That's why when I started the show, I thought about you, because I know me and you have interacted since I started, and you have helped me in certain ways, so I really appreciate that.
I think it's a great part of the community too, is most everybody, I mean, even the people that are kind of to themselves or maybe not so much out there, for the most part, everyone that I've spoke to, and I've tried to do the same, is they've been helpful, informative. If you got a question, they don't treat you like, oh, you dumbass noob, you don't know how to do this. I mean, they may give you a little bit of that depending on who it is, but in the end, you'll get something positive out of it. And I mean, most everybody that I follow, all really positive people, all very they communicate really well. That part of it is really cool, because to be honest, if you ever go to like the 3D printing community, like Creality's group on Facebook and stuff like that, you will get destroyed if you post a benchy with a layer line out of place, right? And here it's like I don't know if it's because of the gun aspect of it, and everyone wants everything to be safe, but everyone's just more involved with what each other's doing and pointing out the little things like, hey, try this instead of that, or hey, let me see what your settings look like and what I can do to help you out, because you don't see that in a lot of the other basic 3D groups. There's a couple that I follow, and they can be ruthless, and we can too. We can be too. I mean, you know what happened on John's show when you had your appearance and things kind of got weird.
Yeah, man, correct. Exactly. That's I didn't even know what was happening. I in my head I was like, "Oh, I'm going to go on John cuz Flying Rich, shout out to Flying Rich. He messaged me and he said, "Hey, you want to be in the show?" And I said, "Wow, perfect. I could talk about Trent's interview, and I could explain what I'm doing now with Sabrprints2A." And all of a sudden I'm like, first of all, my internet was acting weird because I was actually doing the stuff in another room instead of where I usually do it. Then all of a sudden I'm like, man, why is my internet acting up? And then all of a sudden when I start seeing stuff, I'm like, you know what? I'm getting on even on my phone because they were bringing the thing about being anonymous, right? And I believe that a lot of people say like, yeah, we gotta be anonymous. Like, I mean, even I have a certain email that I use, like Proton Mail. I use that, and I try to cover my steps. I'll use a VPN. I don't use Windows. I use Linux. But people need to understand, if they didn't see that Edward Snowden interview where the only way to be actually safe is you have to disconnect your phone's camera, you have to disconnect the battery out of the phone. We have a tracker with us. People know who we are. They're tracking us with our phone. Whatever store we go to, wherever we go, we're being tracked little by little. They know who we are. They know us better than we know ourselves, and it's scary, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and where I'm at, I'm out in Utah. I basically have the NSA's main fusion center. I could probably throw a rock really hard through a rock. I could hit it.
Mhm.
So our a lot of people's perspective about internet privacy and online anonymity and all that, we're kind of reminded of how bullshit that is to a
Yeah.
degree every day on the freeway as we pass I don't even know how big the place is now. I know they use like 5 million gallons per hour to cool the servers in
What?
that building. It's crazy, but it's kind of a visual reminder of, yeah, you can be anonymous-ish and you can be private online, but in the end, unless you've taken extraordinary security measures, they know who you are, they know what you're doing, and you're probably on a list. Does
Exactly.
that mean they're going to kick your door in? Probably not, but it also means that, you can only take the anonymity thing so seriously before it becomes kind of okay, are you doing this to be private, or are you doing this because this is now your online persona? And
Correct.
I think a lot of that kind of comes into play on that end is, some of these, especially the older guys that have been in that, and a lot of them have even come out and, shown their face and given their names and whatnot. But I think some of them are still kind of holding on to that last bastion of the FOSCAD, repository days, where you can look at files back there for like 6 to almost 10 years ago at this point. But back when the gun files were being traded and nobody knew if it was legal or not, and the Cody Wilson thing with his lawsuits and all that history, it's much different now than it was then, and I think that's a very good thing. And it's good to know the past, but it's also best to make our future rather than focus on what was.
Correct.
So that's why when you were on the show, it was kind of, I'm not gonna say disappointing, but it's an argument that's been out there forever, and the details of the argument aren't that important to me, at least, but it's an argument within the community, and that in itself is a problem, because we can fight with each other all we want like cats and dogs, but we also have to realize there's a giant multi-billion-dollar entity out there trying to strip our rights away from us, and the more we focus on ourselves and the less we fight them, the more vulnerable we become. So I think the infighting just in general to that degree is hurtful to us. And what you kind of saw and what I saw on John's podcast, and apparently a few other, or not podcast, his live stream, but apparently a few other live streams since then, is this rehashing of an old problem that doesn't improve our situation, I guess is what it comes down to.
This is how I felt, bro.
Emotional damage.
Yep, it's there's a lot of feels out there, and a lot of I get some of the feels because in the early Keybase days before the great divorce happened and everyone went their separate ways. There was a lot of drama there, and a lot of people felt they were being slighted and weren't getting credit for their work, and that sucks to put in a lot of work on something and to feel unappreciated.
Okay, so
But
let's stop it right there because
mm,
I know a lot of people that might be listening do not know what you just said, and honestly, I don't know what you just said. You said the great divorce. Could you explain? First of all, tell people how long you've been printing for, so they could understand.
probably in 2018-ish, probably beginning or middle of 2018 is when I started actually 3D printing. I was following the space. Before that, it interested me a great deal with everywhere from the Liberator on out through all the models that were coming out and all the kind of not secret online groups, but they weren't exactly out there in the open as they are now with,
Correct.
logos and brand names and sponsorships. But um, this is coming from the perspective of somebody who was just there and tried to lay low in a couple beta groups and just to get some cool ass files and print some stuff. I spent a lot of time in Vin's groups. He kind of, I think for the most part, stayed out of the drama, at least at the time.
Hmm.
So what was going on was the whole hype around Jstark and the FGC9, and it was this big deal. And they were making ECM rifled barrels and homemade ammunition, and all this stuff was coming out, and everyone was getting super psyched about it. And behind that, there was a group of guys that were part of the develop of the APC9 or the AP9, APC9. I
Hmm.
always forget which one. And that was kind of the basis of the FGC9. And nobody really talked about it. And I don't know, it was weird and a lot of drama and a lot of, like I said, a lot of hurt feelings. And so basically what it came down to was one group had a design, another group had a design, one group thought their design was first and wasn't getting any credit, and then a whole bunch of trash talking and fighting ensued, and then kind of there was a break. And I think it was kind of around when the Keybase thing got nuked anyway, or maybe right before or after, who knows. But that's when you get the Are We Cool Yet group and Deterrence Dispensed. And ever since then, there's been a rift between not all of them. And this goes back to something that some of the guys have brought up before on these streams. Like there's people that are fighting with each other. It's not the groups, it's the people that are fighting each other.
Okay.
And you can't really label the entire group based off what a couple people are doing or what a couple people are fighting about. They kind of have to be set aside and let them finish their squabbles outside of the groups. But the group names keep coming into it, and the drama keeps circling back to it's us against them. It's AWCY versus Deterrence Dispense versus whoever else is getting in arguments that week. And like I said, it's unproductive to drag that stuff this far along. Now it's been 2 years, I think, since the FGC9 release, which is the homemade. For anybody who doesn't know, the homemade 9mm PCC, where you can make everything with store-bought materials. You don't need any gun parts to make this firearm. And the predecessor to that, I don't think was really focused on the fact that you didn't need to buy gun parts. You used some gun parts and put this thing together, the rest with a 3D printer. Whereas the FGC9's focus kind of drive was to get it to a global status where somebody in a completely gun restricted area could make a firearm,
Correct.
which I think that got the attention of more people than the other project did. And I think that kind of just started it all. As that was the catalyst that kind of started this argument that's been going on now ever since. And again, this is just me saying from outsider's point of view. I mean, I was around it, but it was all in the Keybase channels that I didn't want to be a part of because there was nothing productive happening. There wasn't any models being made or betas being run in those particular rooms. Maybe there was, but either way, it's past stuff that I wish would. It's the undead of drama where you keep thinking it's dead and it just keeps crawling back out of the earth to resurface.
Yeah, and the thing is that the more you try to hide it or the more you try to forget it, the more they're gonna bring it up because I think they just need to sit down together and fix this issue, because instead of doing anything for the community, it's just making you feel weird. Like I said, when I was there and everything was happening, I was like, "What's going on?" Like I didn't have no clue. It was just made you realize that we're all human. We're all gonna argue. We all have disagreements. But the thing is that the reason the community is here, and the reason a lot of us got into the community, was for freedom and for growth, and especially to build things where other people that need it could actually make it, and they could protect themselves against a tyrannical government. So just all this energy just makes it feel awkward and out of place, because if you guys went to the match, you guys had a great time, and you guys don't agree with certain things, okay, we're in the age where this is fairly still new, you know? You could create your own thing. You could make another show where you target more privacy, where you're focused on more being anonymous. Or you could have this gun show where you know you're going to have to sign your name because of insurance purposes and stuff like that. Because as you grow, you have to figure out what you're going to do. And if you start saying, well, it's just him and him, but then you have the people around each other, now you're going to have to make it where I have to choose, I hang out with these guys or I talk to these guys, and now it's going to be a division. And I don't believe we need a division at this time. What we need is growth, and people take us seriously instead of people seeing us and saying, well, it's just drama like everywhere else. You know what I mean? Just like
Yeah,
Twitter.
yeah, no, and Vin had made a comment in I think it was the stream last night on AGCast where it was, and I'm not going to quote it directly, but it kind of encapsulated kind of how I feel about it. Is, we're not, there's going to be no growth in staying in the shadows, but we do need to allow that space for people to be anonymous and to create, because not everybody wants to have a face or attention or any of that. And for many reasons, but those people also need a space. As far as the Gunmakers Match, that's a whole ball of yarn that I haven't even tried to untangle, because you'll hear three different stories at the same time.
Yeah.
But the general consensus from what I understand was that people didn't want their names exposed at the event. And that's kind of where it comes down to, like you said, okay, is there then a private version of that at some point? And if there is, how does that even look? I think there's a lot of challenges that would come into something like that. But I think a compromise would be good, but you have people running that event that are in fifth gear on getting the stuff out to the public. And there's good reason for that too, is the more exposure we get and the more normal we make this, the more accepted it'll be, and the more likely we are to gain advocates on our side.
Correct.
So there's a dichotomy there, but I think it's necessary, because there are some people that want to lay low, stay in the background, live under pseudonyms their entire time, and never expose themselves, but they do want to create and they do want to contribute, whether it be for the art portion, the 2A portion, or just for the lulz. They just want to put out a Glock that has, paraphernalia built into it, which I'm still shaking my head at.
Yeah, that bong thing.
Chairman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
chairman.
cool. I mean, look, it's cool. I like it. I appreciate it. But then, you know what's going to happen with that? If somebody gets it, they're going to be making a deal, because they're going to be like, oh my God, guns and drugs. This is the type of community, and they're going to be high and you could shoot yourself. You know how they're going to just, remember like the block Glock? Remember how they made it a scene when they were going to bring it out? It's just, I mean, it's nice. It's dope. I like it. I appreciate it. Right? Because that's unique, man. I would never in my life would have thought that somebody would have made a Glock bong. You know what I mean? Like, never in my life.
I think it took someone like Chairman to come up with that concept.
Yeah.
He's
Shout
an
out
interesting
to Chairman,
dude.
man. No, he's done a lot for the community.
Right. It's a PSA for everything against us.
Yes.
It's definitely a headline picture. But it goes back to the art portion of it too. That's also part of this community, because the gun community is kind of a myth. There's really no gun community. There's a bunch of people that love shooting guns, love owning guns, and we all just happen to do the same thing. We don't meet up at gun community events. There are, FPC puts together, these events, and these organizations do, but as a whole, what is it, 120 million gun owners,
Hmm.
we don't all get together in a convention center ever. And chances
No.
are most of us wouldn't really get along except for the fact that we like guns.
Yes, correct.
But with this 3D printing community, I think bonds us a little bit tighter because it's such a niche thing, and it becomes so personal that you can reach out and talk to the guy that made the glong, or reach out to the guy that made the arc, and all these guys that you can talk to. It kind of draws us in a little closer together. So yeah, I think it's very different in that way, because the gun community thing is like, okay, we're a community of people who like guns, but we're not really a community.
Yeah.
For the longest time, they all sat under the flag of the NRA, and look where that got them. So
Exactly. And that's what I love about this the 2A 3D community, right? It's like you said, a lot of the things are not communities. Yeah, they like the same thing, but this is more of a community because first of all, we have people that are hobbyists. Second, art, engineers, right? We have people that are fighting and believe in something. And when you have all of that mixed up, when you have belief, freedom, America, all of that mixed together, that's worth something. That has value, tremendous value, compared to just saying, "Oh, I'm pro gun." Okay, are you pro gun? What are you doing? Oh, well, I have a Glock, I have a shotgun. No, we're building stuff. We're sharing information. We're getting together and discussing. And this is something that, to me, when COVID happened, they try to stop, but they can't stop it, and we keep growing. And something that's gonna destroy this is ourselves, fighting one another, pinning ourselves against one another, and trying to claim that we are the gatekeepers. We are the ones that started this. No, this is an open community. It's open source. All the files are out there for everybody. So, I mean, I don't know. That's just my personal opinion.
no, I totally agree. I think the art part of this, the First Amendment might save the Second Amendment type of thing, where the art of it gives it that ownership, and you can talk to Invader Zip, you can talk to Digital Nimbus, you can talk to Yeezy about the new grip he put out, you can talk to all these guys, Vin, Suckboy Tony making a black powder 50 caliber
Yeah.
monstrosity, all these things, and you feel as not a personal relationship, but as much as an online Instagram follow personal relationship goes. So I think we're more vested in it in that respect, that we tend to advocate more and advocate stronger and get more involved. I can't speak for everybody, because some people are probably just here for the free cool shit, and then they don't ever interact again, and that's
Hmm.
fine. They'll one day show that print to somebody, and they'll be like, "Hey, where did you get that?" "Oh, I got this from, this is off Booligan's new joint." "Who the hell's Booligan?" "Let me show you all this badass cyberpunk shit that he's been building." He's like, he's my all-time favorite designer. But yeah, I think the art and the First Amendment part of this takes the if there is a community, takes us kind of to that next level of, we're now bringing in more than just somebody who owned a bump stock and was told they can't have it anymore, so they threw it in the trash. If you came up and said you can't have that, the newest Arc DLC, or the newest, whatever it is, people would get pissed, because like, no, I was there for the development of, I saw it grow, and I might have even been part of the beta. Fuck you, I'm not getting rid of this. It kind of gives us a little more stake in the game,
Correct.
and I think that's important. I think that's very important, because gun owners overall are a lazy group. We never come out, and I say we is just this the generic gun owner, somebody who's got their 3 guns locked in a safe and haven't shot them in 5 years. They get very complacent, very lazy, and when they're told they can't have something, they tend to just throw their arms up and go, "Well, that's bullshit, but I can't do anything about it," and walk away. Whereas I think we've got a little more fight in us, and I like that a lot. I think that it's growing. You're right. They can't stop it. I mean, the whole thing with Hoffman and and the force reset trigger.
Correct.
I know personally a few people that might have been online that were just distributing that file like wildfire after it got taken down. And you know what? They might not have even distributed it had Rare Breed not made such a fit about it.
Exactly.
But I think that was more their lawyers. But either way, it's one of those things where it's the Streisand effect. The more you say don't look at something, the more we're all going to look at it, and the more we're all going to share it. The worst thing you can do is draw attention to something.
Correct. Just like when the Harley came out, remember they were charging for it. Well, I know I seen online a lot of people bought one, or somebody bought one, and then they said, you know what, this is supposed to be free, and they distributed. And what happened? Black Coalition ended up putting it out for free at the end, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
It should be on Odyssey for free or somewhere.
And that's what I'm talking about. That we have, at this moment, we have so much power that I don't think people understand how much power we actually have. And if we have people like John Crump that is giving the platform for us to be able to go in there and talk about this, and a lot of people like JSD Supply, this is like the new movement for 2A. I think this is just my personal opinion, but this is what is saving 2A. This is what's giving new light. Every couple of generations, something comes in that gives something that fire, that push that it needs. If people don't gravitate towards it and take advantage of it, then you're going to have to wait. But right now is the time for 2A to grow and become something cool, something new, and something safety, because who else is going to understand safety more than us? Because we're putting ourselves out there. You just saw what happened to me with the harlot, right? So we're out there testing this. So we care about safety more than anybody else, because you're just going to go buy a gun, and if something happens to it, you're going to go and make a fuss and sue. Who are we going to sue? Ourselves? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I won't lie, I do kind of, pucker up a little bit every time I take that first couple shots off of a new frame, because it's, what you did, the settings were right, but it's something about putting that much responsibility into your own hands and making it yourself that I think we're just so used to everyone doing shit for us, and we go out and just buy their stuff because it's been proven and tested and blah blah blah. But no, I think that we are very much in tune with safety, and the point about where we're at right now with the community is we have so much momentum going for us and that's kind of why this infighting stuff still drives me nuts when I see it come up. It defeats it kind of spins our wheels that should be moving forward, and very quickly, because we do have guys like Crump out there. We got all these people from the YouTube community that are slowly starting to come out, like 3D Print General, making awesome stuff. And he's got an audience from years back that didn't know anything about 3D printing guns, and now he's showing himself 3D printing these guns and having them be functional and safe.
Wait.
DLD After Dark, who his whole channel for the longest time was survivalist and self-reliance and all these things, and now he's bringing 3D gun makers into the conversation and has been for a while. We're getting this momentum built up behind us, and it just needs to keep growing rather than have to grow and then stop because these guys over here want to squabble. Okay, let's get that taken care of. And then we got to grow again because the other side's not taking a break. They're not squabbling. They're full speed ahead trying to stop what we're doing. And in guns in general, but more so now 3D printing. This can't freak them out any more than it has what we're doing. And I can't imagine the panic in these meetings of, oh crap, how do we stop ones and zeros from making guns? Like, that's got to be a nightmare for the anti-gun side. But they've got money and they've got dedication, and they're not going to slow down. And we can't either if we want to have any chance of holding our ground against these people and eventually defeating them, which is the ultimate goal. And just being able to keep our rights, which are guaranteed under the Constitution and under the law of, under the Creator, you are allowed to have any way of self-defense that you need. And if that's a gun, if that's a bat, if that's a chainsaw, whatever it is, you are given that right by the Creator to preserve your own safety and the safety of those around you. And I think that needs to be focus number one all the time, every time. But the drama part is, it's just any online community has these problems. We're
Yes.
not unique to this dysfunction. There we go.
Okay, so you were saying the 3D general, he wasn't doing 3D stuff, or
No, he was doing 3D printing, and he's
but
got, I
not
think
the
his
guns,
channel.
right?
I'd have to go back to see how old his channel is. He's been around a while, and he's really good at what he does. He puts out a really good book every year, or I think it's like the past 2 years. I've had a copy of it, of his 3D printing troubleshooting guide, and
Yeah.
it's full of awesome information. So the guy knows what he's doing and what he's talking about. And it was actually when I was looking to get another printer. I was looking to get a printer that could do carbon fiber and polycarbonate and nylon. And what I passed along one of his videos about the printer I was looking at,
Hmm.
and I noticed he had printed a Springfield, I believe, in it. And I was like, oh, I didn't know he did guns. So I started going back a little bit further. I'm like, oh, he kind of, I guess, has been doing guns for a little while now, but his channel, I could be totally mistaken,
No,
but I
I
don't think
think
he was doing guns for forever.
yeah, I think you're right, because I think when I started, he's one of them, of the few that I looked into for settings and setting stuff up, and
Oh yeah.
so he had a lot of that. And then I think I remember I went to his like videos, and I would see that he had some gun stuff, but you're right, he had a lot of like stuff to do with just 3D printing in general, not just 2A.
Yeah, and he's got a good mix. I'm seeing now his first video looks like it was 5 years ago, and that definitely predates a lot of the prints we're seeing today.
Yeah.
But he does a really good mix. He does a lot of, or he's done CAD tutorials, like really quick ones. And you're right, a lot of the tuning of the printers, like if you got an issue with your ender, that's one of the places you should look, or get his guide, which is well worth the price. I think it's even free on Kindle, or it used to be. But yeah, he's a good example of these crossover YouTubers and media people that is exposing what we're doing to people that might not otherwise know what we're doing, or maybe they have an idea and it's this nefarious in the basement printing grenade launchers, and which I guess is
Oh
a
yeah,
new
you
drop
saw
that just
that?
came out. Yeah,
Yes.
it's not a grenade launcher. It's a recoilless rifle.
Exactly. It's if your friend is very far away and you want to send them a beer,
Yeah, you gotta
or
send my beer way the fuck over
yeah,
there.
or you need to send somebody a T-shirt. It's a T-shirt cannon. That's what we need to call it. It's a
a,
T-shirt
t-
cannon.
a t-shirt that may or may not be on fire when they catch it.
Exactly. No, man, but yeah, like I was saying, you're totally right. And the thing is that this space has a lot of people that have different types of hobbies. We all come from different lifestyles. We're all different, and we have people that are engineers. We have people that are software developers. We have people that are janitors, plumbers. It's just a mix. So if you guys are concerned about certain things, especially like YouTube bringing down videos and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure we could all get together and somebody could build a site, or each of us hold storage where we could help each other and put videos up in files, like kind of like a network, like the Tor network. That's how it holds everybody is sharing a server or stuff like that, and together we are stronger than apart. And I think that's what kind of made me feel weird that day when I was sitting there, because I was like all these people and I was looking at them like, wow, fanboying out, because there's some heavy hitters right there, and I just started and I'm around all this greatness, and then everything starts happening, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? But then I forget at the same time that we're all humans and we all have egos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the ego is always the downfall of man, unfortunately, but it also is the creator of great things. It's one of those things where that stuff goes so far back, and anybody who I would think, like when you talk to Trent, you talk to Guns from the Grave, they're all after that. And I'd say the vast majority of the people that are on Instagram or even on Twitter printing or contributing to the space or supplying us with parts like JSC is doing or giving us custom mags like Dying Nexus is doing with I
Yes.
can't wait for the Chick-fil-A mag. I'm so happy when that's going to come out. But all
Yeah, shout
these
out to
guys
Dying
and girls, I'm
Nexus.
sure, and in between, they all came in after the fact, and I think it's kind of tempting to get involved in drama when you don't have any stake or you don't have any skin in the game, and you can stir the pot and see people scream at each other, and you kind of put the pieces together as you go along, and it I think the Jerry Springer aspect of that is it's a little too tempting for people sometimes,
Yes.
and I've been seeing that the past week of people stirring the pot that just really have no business stirring the pot. No business, I guess it's always anybody's business, but they don't have the whole story, and the people that have the whole story don't want to tell the whole story. So let's just let the story be logged in the history books and move it on. But I think the good thing is a lot of the talent and a lot of the people that are creating even from back then have moved on and are making awesome things and making and doing great stuff. And there's always going to be fighting. There's always going to be arguments. It's just part of it. And some of it can be very healthy to get into these arguments because that's sometimes how you figure stuff out. But yeah, I think it's just always going to be a part of the community. The goal is to just not let it take so much of our focus away that we lose track of what we're actually trying to do here, which is print guns. I mean,
Yes.
whether you're doing it for the constitutional reason or the art reason or somewhere in between, you still want to print guns and go and have fun and post pictures of it and all that stuff. So as long as we keep the bulk of our focus on that, we should be okay. And with the exposure we get on YouTube and the other medias, I think YouTube is what YouTube is, and it's always going to be that way. I don't see them changing their corporate structure to be friendly to us at any point in ever.
Yes.
But like things like Odyssey, if it can get to that point, that'll be a huge thing for us. And it is big, but you can't do things like live stream, and it's still kind of like not as easy, or we're not as used to it as we are something like YouTube.
Correct.
And there's been other sites like what is it, a Gun Streamer? There's Full 30, there's Ultreon. So there's all these other sites that have their own pluses and pros and cons. But it's just a matter of getting everybody off the big one and onto what will be the next one. Because these things don't last forever. YouTube's not going to last forever. It'll be overtaken by something at some point. Facebook took over MySpace, and Google took over whatever the hell old, Yahoo search or whatever, Ash Jeeves.
Yeah, remember they bought.
Then.
They bought also YouTube, and then Facebook bought WhatsApp. And remember, everybody was using WhatsApp because they thought it was safe and this and that. If you're still using WhatsApp, it's part of Facebook. That's not safe.
None of it's safe.
Instagram is part of Facebook. You guys think that whatever we're typing on Instagram is safe? No, it's not. So that's why.
Not at all.
I guess. You're right. Like that. We just need to figure it out and move past that. I had a question for you before we started talking all about the past and everything, but I guess it matters because, like I said, I didn't know. I'm pretty sure a lot of people that are watching or listening, they don't know what was going on. But before we start talking about all of this, were you always into 2A, or how did you get into 2A, and how did you also get into the 3D printing aspect of it? If you could let the listeners know.
Yeah, so I've been shooting guns probably since 8 years old. My dad and my uncles, they were all big into guns, and all their friends, and we would go out to the now inhabited Apple Valley and shoot guns when it used to be just nothing but dirt and jackrabbits.
Wow.
And it was just always something around that I've been around. My uncle's I'm sure he still has 3 vaults that haven't been opened since I was a teenager, and probably will never be opened because he doesn't need those kind of felonies. But so yeah, since I was 8, I've been shooting. Kind of got more into the 2A side of it. I don't know, maybe like the past 10 years or so. Been following it more and more, especially now the past few years with kind of exposing the NRA for what it is, and these other groups like GOA and FPC coming up, and guys like Crump and all these guys coming out and opening our eyes to a lot of what's going on with actual gun rights and actual court fights and stuff like that. So I'd say most of my life been shooting guns, been into guns, and more recently, the past 5 to 10 years, actually trying to be more active in it. And then 3D printing it was kind of on a whim. I just wanted, I'd seen enough videos, I guess, to convince myself to give it a try. I tend to overthink things too much. When I see a 3D printer, it's like, oh, it's simple enough, but how many things can go wrong? And I'll never get this right. And finally, I was like, screw it. Ender 3s are cheap. I'm gonna go buy one.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well, these guns can't be totally secure when you print them. They got to be doing something special to them. And then finally just printed one and shot it. And I was like, oh yeah, we can do this. It's not that bad. And the worst thing that happens is you crack a frame at the pin and then you just make a new one.
Yeah.
So that's been more like the past 3.5 to 4 years of printing, and more heavily the past, I don't know, probably 2 years been just like 3 of my 4 printers are making a gun part at some point, and the other one's making whatever the kids want as a toy.
That's amazing that you a lot of you guys started at a young age. The more interviews I do, the more I realize, or the more, not even just interviews, the more I talk to certain people, the more I realize that a lot of them started young, and I think I'm like the only one that started at, like, I think I started with a gun at probably, I gotta say, I was about maybe 16. Yeah, 16, 15 when I actually shot my first gun.
That's a good age, though. That's not old by any stretch.
Yeah.
The only reason I think I started out early is because my dad probably trusted me with a gun, and he thought it would be hilarious to give me a 12 gauge loaded with a Magnum slug and see what would happen.
Oh man, that's what I was gonna say. He wanted to see how you would handle it.
Yeah, I was there to like grab beers and and reload magazines and everything else. So I was more the labor portion of the operation. But
you were the gun caddy.
yeah, exactly. But no, I've got friends that in their 20s, I was taking out to the desert to just give them like basic gun handling, gun safety stuff. And I'm not an instructor by any stretch, but
Correct.
just the basics of how to be safe with a firearm. So it's any age you can start. I mean, you look at the story of Ivan, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
The man has never filled out a 4473, and the only guns he's ever owned has been 3D printed. Yeah.
Really?
So however old he is, he's only been a gun owner as long as 3D guns have been printable, according to him.
And see, that's what's amazing, man, that a lot of people, even if they knew about guns before, or even if they had a gun, they didn't. The reason that they got really into 2A was because of 3D, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I think it's because it made gun ownership so cheap, and it made it so customizable. You look at anybody who I fought off owning an AR for years because it was just it is literally a Lego set for adults.
Correct.
But once you start building, you're like, oh, I can do this cool shit, and I can do this, and I can do this. With 3D printing, it's like the only bounds of possibility are what somebody can come up with in Fusion. Correct. And that's an amazing function. Is like, we can make this. Oh yeah, you can make that and have it do this and all these things. The Invader Zip's art design is one of my favorite designs ever because of how innovative it looks. Mm-hmm. And at its core, it's either, now with the DLC, it can be a whole mess of versions, but it's a PCC or rifle length at its core, but it's the look of it and the feel of it. And, you take it to the range and everyone's like, what the fuck is that? It's not so much like, oh, you got that EOTech, or, oh, you got that, whatever. It's like, I've never seen anything like this before. And that can even stir up the the interest in somebody at the range, or it might even freak them out a little bit. But if they see it work and they understand what went behind it and the amount of, the months and all the work put into making it safe and functional, that in itself can be a tool of advocacy, because then people are thinking, well, I can go out and buy an Ender 3 for $200, or if you're fortunate enough to be around a Micro Center, $100, which I am not, unfortunately.
Yeah, I love Micro Center. I actually have one, like, let's say 10 minutes away. That's where I am so jealous. That's where I bought my second one. So my first one was through Amazon, and I think I paid around that time because I got the Ender 3 V2. I believe I paid around $300 with taxes and everything.
Okay.
or 350, something like that. I need to check. But when I got the other one, which is the same one, I believe I paid $220 at Micro Center.
Yeah, that's a good shop, and it
Yeah,
drives me
man.
nuts that the closest one to me is like an 8-hour drive, and the $100 in savings is not worth the gas, especially these
Especially
days.
now. Correct. Correct, man. Um,
So, but no, it's one of those things I keep pushing for. I'm like, how do we get one out here? Because it would blow. Because we got, surprisingly, to my surprise at least, we got quite a few guys that are in and out of the various communities and groups that are actually out here in Utah, and like Booligan's out here. He's told everybody that, and there's a couple other guys that I found out are out here. It's like, wow, we got quite a few of us out here. It's like we
yeah, you
should
guys
all
have a
get
good
together
community
and
up
open a
there.
micro center.
I think
Have
you
all the
guys have
filament and cheap printers we need.
you guys have a match, right? Like a gun thing happening in Utah, or
I
is that
don't.
Colorado?
I think if you're talking about the next Gunmakers match, that's going to be what I've heard. Rumor has it it's going to be back in Colorado
Okay.
sometime in May, perhaps. And I think it'll be at the same place they had it last time. I didn't get to go to the first one they had out there because of work reasons, and it crushed my soul because I was so ready to go, and then life happened. But I think they're going to have it in the same place they had it in Colorado last year,
That's gonna be dope.
and so yeah, I'm definitely going to try to hit that up because despite the drama, it sounded like it was a lot of fun in Florida.
Yeah, I admit they're goodie bags, man. Just alone the
I
goodie
know.
bag, and then that binary trigger for the Glock. That's awesome, man.
That I am very interested in seeing that and the inner works. I'm going to get one
Yeah,
because I have to.
remember, guys.
A two a two,
JSD
200.
Supply link in the bio.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, when they do come out, use your affiliate link.
Yeah,
But
thank you.
yeah, for $200, you're getting a binary Glock. It's like
Yeah,
Franklin's charging like $600 for that
yeah,
or
cause
something crazy.
yeah, they were expensive. Cause I remember when I did the bento box, I wanted to get the binary trigger for the 22, and even right now on eBay, I think used they're trying to let it go for like $300. So I
Yeah, I
know.
noticed the prices went up on those lately.
Yeah,
They were for the 1022 is always like around 220, $230, but the last sale price I saw was closer to 300. So it's like, man, they're going up in price. So they must be fearing the new AFT. I guess it is AFT.
yeah, man.
The new ATF rulings.
Yeah, they're getting ridiculous with their new stuff. And you know what? A lot of people are not even realizing that they're passing a lot of stuff, and we're not even paying attention because you know how everybody's concentrated with the Russia-Ukraine stuff, and I don't understand that because YouTube, you could post all this stuff about Russia and Ukraine and people bloody and all of this, but as soon as you post something to do with a gun, you get your stuff taken down or you get a strike.
Yeah, they'll find reasons to squash the casual gun owner, but they'll gladly. And the thing that's silly, and it's definitely been said more times than or before
Mhm.
I ever thought of this idea, but you look at what's happening in the Ukraine. I mean, this is this is the case study of why the 2A is important.
Correct.
And after this is over, as they do with everything else, the side that was anti-gun that should have looked at the Ukraine and said, maybe it's not such a bad idea we have guns. As soon as that's over, no matter which way it ends, and it may not end for a decade at this point,
Yeah.
but they'll go back to their old ways. Like, well, we don't need it here. We're not them. We have a lot of hubris as Americans as far as what we think we can and can't be somewhere else. It's like
Correct.
we could become a second world country in the blink of an eye. They shut the power off and we are fucked.
Especially
You
with
know,
inflation at the current moment.
yeah, it's everyone. Nobody has enough money, and what kind of it still weirds me out, and I'm still trying to figure out how this is happening, but I don't know of, and I know it is happening to others, but everybody around here seems to be just kind of getting by, and I think that's kind of dangerous because if they're adjusting and getting by as things get more and more expensive, when you can't get by, the fall back to where you should have been is going to be a fucking hard one.
I mean, yeah.
And by the time people wake up to that, it's like, well, how much shit have they done to us legislatively that we can't undo now? And now we're kind of
Correct.
stuck. And you got Biden talking about the New World Order out loud,
Yeah,
and it's like,
out
oh, okay,
loud.
so it's
Yeah.
going down now, huh?
Nah, man. Biden has I don't even know who's really in power right now because you got Biden and that he doesn't even know where he's at half of the time. And then you got Harris and she just I mean she doesn't even know anything at the moment. So I mean unless Obama's the one that's controlling the show behind the scenes or I don't even know, man. Like it just don't make sense and it's so sad because everybody knows that America is a lot laughing stock right now, to be honest. No
Yeah,
disrespect to America,
internationally, yeah, that's definitely true.
but the White House is a shit show at the moment, man. Honestly, I don't know what the heck is going on. And another thing, the prices have been going up since COVID. Our electricity bill doubled this year, so I don't know what's going on, man. Everything
Well,
is insane.
you're in California too, so that's just got
Yeah.
to be a hoot.
No, it's
It's-
bad. And then you could tell it's bad because all the fancy places that people were scared to do crimes are being committed. So and now like all of Hollywood, all of Rodeo Drive, all those areas where people thought crime was not gonna touch them, oh, they're getting touched. They're
oh, it's
getting
in broad
touched.
daylight too.
Yes,
They just do not care.
Exactly, man. So that's why I tell people, you know what, like imagine if you were able to if it was a place like Texas or a place where you could actually open carry, they wouldn't have tried half of the stuff that they're trying because they know that if they do something right now at downtown LA or Hollywood or any of those places where it used to be touristy, nobody's gonna have a gun and the cops take forever to come. So somebody's just gonna come out with like a bat or a broom and these guys have guns, you know?
Yep. Yep. No, and what's kind of it's interesting is like you look at the homeless problem and the crime problem in like LA County in general. Because I grew up in Southern California till I was about like 19,
Oh,
so
okay,
like
cool.
LA County, Orange County. So
Yeah,
you kind of knew where the okay spots were to roll around at night and where you
correct.
stayed away from, and those were always there. And you look at some place like Rodeo and Beverly Hills, and it's like one of the highest homeless rates, but you just never see it.
Hmm.
And they finally just all came out into the open. It's like, oh, the cops aren't going to stop us from taking all this shit that we've wanted for years. So let's
Hmm.
just go take it.
No,
And no one's
I
going to
mean
stop
they're not
us.
gonna stop them because they're gonna leave a freight train in the middle of the open without locks, and the freight
Right.
train is gonna be full of guns. It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Now another thing that you brought up this thing that's going on right now. Okay, so you know how they're giving out like crack pipes and drug kits because they're trying to like make sure that you use drugs but you don't die.
Yeah.
Um,
Use it safely. Yeah.
yeah. So instead of doing that, man, you know what they should do? They should give out safety classes to these people that don't know how to use a gun. Half of these murders that are occurring when, like, say, gang members are using guns is because they're shooting somebody that the bullet wasn't intended to because they don't know how to shoot. You'll be surprised how many of these people that are carrying a gun don't know how to clean their weapon, don't know how to shoot. So if you would spend that money on teaching these criminals, hey, come here, you could have your gun, but we're going to have to give you a program where you're going to learn how to shoot, learn to clean your weapon, learn to do this. At least, I bet you anything, when they shoot, they're going to shoot themselves or the gang member that it was intended to, but the rate of hitting a stray bullet, hitting somebody that doesn't deserve it, is going to be way less. And I think that's, honestly, that's pro-life to me, right? Because I mean, I don't know, man.
I mean, you're right. They don't. You see like the videos from Chicago and everything, and it's and everywhere else where these shootings happen, and it's generally somebody running full speed down the block, shooting blindly behind them,
Correct.
or rolling up and just opening up on a crowd of people because they want to hit one person. Now, and believe it or not, schools used to have things called hunter safety, and they would teach you about not gun control, but how to break down a gun, how to clean a gun, how to use a gun, and the
Hmm.
gun safety rules. And the more the anti-gun side tries to clamp down on just gun ownership, the more they're adversely affecting gun safety because they're preventing places from wanting to hold these courses, and they don't want to be looked at as this is the gun school. It's a optics thing, and it works in the gun control's favor anyway, because then it makes guns more dangerous.
Yes.
But yeah, they used to do that, and I think out here they still maybe, or maybe it's like an elective in high school. I think I haven't looked into it,
Yeah.
but it used to be all you could just go to school with a rifle in the back of the car, or even a gun in the car, and it wasn't a thing. But when you kind of demonize it and force it into this dark place, then it gets weird. People don't want to talk about them having guns, and that's kind of why some of these guys that are anonymous online, they may be in a place where they can't talk about guns, but they really like guns and they really want to make guns. But because of the culture, it's like, well, I can't talk about it because then I'd be I'd be ostracized from whatever I do. So it's definitely part of the fight, is just the education. The education is a huge part of it, and that also starts in the home too.
Exactly.
I taught all my kids about gun safety, and we'll run drills where I'll have one of the guns out unloaded and everything, and I'll leave it on the coffee table and step back into the kitchen and wait for one of them to come in. And if they don't yell "Dad" when they first make eye contact with them, I'm up their ass. I'm like, you don't even, whatever you're thinking, don't do, because this is what we talked about. When you see a gun, go to an adult, don't touch it, all these different rules. And for the most part, they're awesome with it. But I also know some households where they just say guns are dangerous. You'll die if you even look at one the wrong way. And it's like,
you'll get pregnant.
Yeah, it's
touch
super weird. I mean, some of my family's even like that too, and they know who I am and what I've not what I've done with guns, but that I've been into guns this whole time, and they'll just tell me the craziest shit. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And if you just would sit down for 20 minutes with me, I could put all these fears to rest. These guns don't unlock themselves and go out and shoot people in the middle of the night, and they're just like your chainsaw in your garage. If you don't run out and hit someone with the chainsaw's not going to do anything. Same thing with a gun. You treat it right, treat it respectfully, treat it safely, and it will be all those things. It will be safe. It'll be secure. And so, but you're right. It's the education thing. There definitely has to be a push for that. But the problem is it's the optics that have been put on guns in general. It's like, well, you're teaching kids how to use guns. It's like, well, yeah, because guns exist, and there's 200 million of them in this country. They ain't going anywhere anytime soon, so we might as well teach them how to use them safely than to have them stumble across their friend's dad's safe and think that they're gonna imitate John Wick and pop their friend in the head, and now you got an incident.
Yes, or the Matrix, and they're gonna dodge the bullet. No.
Oh yeah, they can just duck real quick, and it'll be all in the bullet time cameras.
Correct. Man. All right, so I have one question for you, since we kind of got into it anyways. What does your family think about this? And another thing before we start that question, I feel like this interview is gonna maybe hit a 2-part, because we're already kind of at the hour. So I don't know if you want to do another hour. That way it's 2 hours, and I could cut it into first part and second part. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right,
I got all day.
All right, cool. so then the next question I have for you is, how does your family feel, especially maybe now that you're more into it because of the 3D printing part?
My family's fine with it. The only person that I know it would destroy inside is my mom, because she is staunch. She's always been this way. Staunch anti-gun, staunch everything to the farthest left you can get. Once she hits the wall of the left, she'll climb that wall and make a new left. But everybody else they think it's kind of interesting. They don't believe that any of the guns actually work until I show them, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, you can actually do that." My wife thinks she just shakes her head when she goes down and sees that there's multiple printers with multiple of usually the same frame, because I'm trying 3 different things. But she'll just laugh, and they know to reserve printer time if they need it, so I can stop making guns and gun accessories. But no, overall they're pretty cool. And there's the people out here where this kind of state in general is still very gun friendly, and it's hopefully going to stay that way. We have a governor who's not, and he's even passed some gun-friendly legislation, like permitless concealed carry, and he's very to the left, very not outright anti-gun, but of that ilk, and he signed the permitless carry into law. So we're pretty safe out here, but it's not to say that we're not on top of the politicians and everything they're doing, because it could flip in a blink of an eye. You look at Virginia; they were also very gun friendly, and now look at them.
Yeah, Virginia was super open. Why do you think that happened with Virginia?
The politics shifted, and the demographics probably shifted. You kind of look at what not took over Texas, but how Austin was always kind of liberal-ish because it's an artsy town and everything. But now, like, Dallas is starting to get a little liberal, and Houston, even, I'm hearing, isn't going great with the politicians that are getting elected and the laws that they're trying to. There's always gun laws being pushed. They don't always pass, but they're always out there.
Yeah.
But I think that in Virginia specifically, I think the demographic shift might have played into that, where it was just more of a liberal mindset that moved out there. Everybody ran away from California and took their values with them.
Yeah, that's correct.
Because believe it or not, California used to not be as bad as it is.
Thank you for listening to Sabrprints2A Show. We'll be back on Wednesday with part 2. Stick around, and hopefully you guys have a great day. Once again, thanks to JSD Supply for sponsoring this show.